Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast. Today, we're going on a deep dive.
Ooh, deep dive.
Yeah, into a story that's surprisingly global and spans thousands of years.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Are you ready for this? It's the history of the toothbrush.
The toothbrush. Really?
I know it doesn't sound that thrilling at first, but trust me, there's more to it than meets the eye.
Okay, you've piqued my curiosity. I'll give you that.
So let's rewind all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
Where does the story of the toothbrush even start? Did cavemen brush their teeth?
Well, not exactly with toothbrushes as we know them, but the quest for clean teeth is as old as humanity itself.
I can imagine.
We have evidence that people in ancient civilizations like Sumer, Egypt, and China
Oh, wow.
were already using tools to clean their teeth.
So what kind of tools were we talking about here? Were they using some sort of prehistoric toothbrush?
Not quite a toothbrush, but something called a chew stick.
A chew stick.
Yeah, imagine a twig, usually from a specific type of tree,
Okay.
with frayed ends. People would chew on these sticks to clean their teeth.
Chew sticks. That sounds a bit rough.
Yeah.
Were they effective?
You might be surprised to learn that they were actually quite effective.
Really?
Yeah, the frayed ends acted like bristles, and many of the trees chosen for these chew sticks had natural antibacterial properties.
So not just any stick would do.
Not just any stick. They had specific properties that made them ideal for cleaning teeth.
So there was some thought behind it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a random twig.
Exactly. And what's even more fascinating is that chew sticks are still used today
Really?
in many parts of the world.
I had no idea. I thought those were a thing of the past.
It's true. The miswak, for instance, is a chew stick that's been used for centuries in Islamic traditions.
Okay.
And it's still popular today. It's often made from the Salvadora persica tree, which has natural antiseptic properties.
So chew sticks represent a continuous thread throughout history,
Yeah.
connecting ancient practices to modern oral hygiene.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions can be incredibly effective.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So we've got chew sticks in ancient times, but when did the first bristle brush, the kind we're more familiar with today,
Right.
come into the picture?
We have to fast forward a few centuries for that. The first bristle toothbrush, as we know it, actually emerged in China
Okay.
during the Tang Dynasty sometime between 619 and 907 AD.
Wow, that's even earlier than I expected.
Yeah.
And what did they use for bristles back then?
Believe it or not, they used hog hair.
Hog hair.
Apparently, hogs from Siberia and northern China had the firmest bristles thanks to the cold climate. The handles were typically made from bamboo or bone.
Hog hair.
Yeah.
That's something I never knew before. So even though it was a bristle brush, it was still a far cry from the plastic ones we have today.
Exactly. But it was a significant step towards the modern toothbrush. And it's amazing to see how materials and technology have shaped the evolution of this everyday tool.
Absolutely. Now, how did the toothbrush make its way from China to the rest of the world?
Well, it was through travelers and trade routes, of course. The bristle toothbrush was introduced to Europe from China by travelers in the 17th century.
It's fascinating how ideas and inventions traveled along those routes, connecting different parts of the world.
It really is. And it reminds us that innovation is often a collaborative process with ideas and influences flowing across cultures and continents.
So when Europeans first encountered these bristle toothbrushes, did they embrace them right away?
Not exactly. Europeans initially preferred softer bristles made from horsehair
Oh.
to the firmer hog bristles favored in China. It seems like different cultures had different preferences when it came to teeth cleaning.
That makes sense. It probably took some time for people to adjust to a new way of brushing. So was the toothbrush design pretty much set at this point, or were there more innovations to come?
There were plenty more innovations on the horizon. But before we delve into those, let's take a quick detour and explore the story of William Addis, an Englishman who played a pivotal role in the history of the toothbrush.
Oh, I sent a good story coming. And don't forget, listeners, if you're enjoying this deep dive into toothbrush history, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes of Tell Me More. We've got plenty more fascinating stories to share.
Now back to William Addis. He found himself in a rather unusual situation. He was in prison for causing a riot.
A riot? Wow, that's quite a story. So how did he end up revolutionizing the toothbrush from behind bars?
Well, at the time, the common method for cleaning teeth was to use a rag with soot and salt. Not the most pleasant experience, I imagine.
I'm wincing just thinking about it.
While in prison, Addis decided there had to be a better way. He was a resourceful fellow, and he came up with a brilliant idea.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What did he do?
The story goes that he saved a bone from his meal, drilled small holes into it, and then acquired some bristles, probably from a guard. He then tied the bristles into tufts, threaded them through the holes in the bone, and sealed it all with glue, and voila! A new and improved toothbrush was born.
That's an incredible story. Necessity truly is the mother of invention. So what happened when Addis was released from prison? Did his invention take off?
You bet it did. Addis started a business manufacturing his toothbrushes, and it was a huge success. His company remained in the family for generations, producing millions of toothbrushes in the UK.
That's a remarkable tale of entrepreneurship born out of a rather unexpected situation. So with Addis's invention, did the toothbrush design remain pretty much the same going forward?
Not quite. The toothbrush was about to undergo even more transformations, especially with the rise of new materials and manufacturing techniques. But to tell you about that, we'll have to wait until part 2 of our deep dive. Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told As podcast. We left off with William Addis and his ingenious toothbrush invention.
Yeah, a truly remarkable story.
But the story doesn't end there. The 19th century saw a surge in toothbrush production and some interesting choices in materials.
So what happened after Addis's invention took off? Did everyone start using bone-handled toothbrushes with bristles from random animals?
Not exactly. While Addis's design was revolutionary, the materials used in toothbrushes continued to evolve.
Right.
Early on, production was primarily handmade.
I can imagine.
But by 1840, mass production was in full swing in countries like Britain, France, Germany,
Wow.
and even Japan.
That makes sense. The Industrial Revolution was changing everything, so it's no surprise that it also impacted toothbrush production.
Precisely. And with mass production came a wider range of materials. Cheaper toothbrushes often used pig bristles, while the more expensive ones sported bristles made from,
Let me guess, horsehair.
even more luxurious, wait for it, badger hair.
Badger hair. Now that's something I've never heard of. It seems like a rather specific choice.
It was considered a luxurious option.
Wow.
But as you can imagine, it also raised concerns about sustainability even back then.
Yeah, that's a good point. So were there any moves toward more modern and hopefully more sustainable materials?
Absolutely. In the early 20th century, there was a major shift away from bone and animal bristles.
Oh.
Celluloid became the go-to material for handles, and then came the biggest game changer, nylon.
Nylon. That's right. I remember reading that nylon revolutionized so many industries, and it sounds like toothbrushes were no exception.
It was a true revolution for toothbrush bristles. DuPont, the chemical giant, introduced nylon bristles in 1938.
Okay.
And they quickly became the industry standard. They were more hygienic, dried faster, and didn't fall out as easily as animal bristles.
I can see why that was a big deal.
Yeah.
So with nylon bristles and celluloid handles, we're getting pretty close to the toothbrushes we know and use today, right?
We are indeed. But the story of the toothbrush is far from over. Around the mid-20th century, another major innovation came along that would once again change the way we brush our teeth.
Okay, I think I know where you're going with this, the electric toothbrush.
You got it.
That's right. We can't forget about that game changer.
The electric toothbrush truly shook things up. The first commercially successful electric toothbrush, the Broxident, was invented in Switzerland in 1954.
1954? That's quite a while ago. I guess electric toothbrushes aren't as recent an invention as some people might think.
It's true. Many inventions that we consider modern have actually been around for quite some time. But back to the Broxident. It was a pretty big deal at the time. It was initially marketed to people with limited motor skills,
Oh, interesting.
but it soon caught on with the general public.
And I imagine the technology has advanced significantly since those early electric toothbrushes.
Oh, absolutely. We've gone from basic rotating brushes to sonic vibrations, oscillating heads, and even built-in timers and pressure sensors.
So much for those simple days of chew sticks and hog bristles.
Hmm.
Speaking of which, there seems to be a wide variety of toothbrush types available today. Could you walk us through some of those options?
Of course. Besides the familiar manual and electric toothbrushes, there are specialized options like interdental brushes, end-tuft brushes,
Okay.
and even chewable toothbrushes.
I've heard of interdental brushes, but I must admit I'm not entirely sure what they are or how they work.
Interdental brushes are those tiny, specially designed brushes, sometimes cylindrical, sometimes conical, that are meant to clean between your teeth, those hard-to-reach spaces that a regular toothbrush can't quite get to. They're incredibly effective at removing plaque and food debris.
Ah, so those are for getting into those tight spots. That makes a lot of sense. What about end-tuft brushes? Those sound intriguing.
End-tuft brushes have a small, compact head with bristles clustered at the end. They're incredibly useful for cleaning around braces, bridges, or those tricky back molars.
I can see how those would be a lifesaver for anyone with orthodontic work or who struggles to reach those back teeth.
Exactly. And then there are chewable toothbrushes. These are essentially miniature toothbrushes molded in plastic that you simply pop in your mouth and chew on. They're not as common, but they can be handy in a pinch or for travel.
Chewable toothbrushes, that's a new one for me. It's incredible how many different types of toothbrushes exist. But with all these innovations, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, sustainability. All those plastic handles and nylon bristles, it doesn't seem very eco-friendly.
You're absolutely right. The environmental impact of toothbrushes is a serious concern. Millions of plastic toothbrushes end up in landfills every year, and plastic, as we know, takes hundreds of years to decompose.
So what's the solution? Are we doomed to a future of overflowing landfills filled with toothbrushes? Or could we see a return to chew sticks?
While chew sticks are certainly a sustainable option, they're not for everyone. Thankfully, there are other eco-friendly alternatives gaining traction.
Okay, this is what I want to hear. What are these alternatives? Fill me in.
One popular option is the bamboo toothbrush. Bamboo is a fast-growing renewable resource, and it biodegrades naturally. Bamboo toothbrushes can be composted after use, significantly reducing their environmental impact.
I've definitely seen bamboo toothbrushes popping up in stores more and more. They seem like a promising alternative.
Another interesting development is the rise of replaceable head toothbrushes. These have a reusable handle and disposable heads, so you only need to replace the brush head, not the entire brush. This helps reduce plastic waste.
That's a smart approach. A sort of hybrid between a traditional toothbrush and a more sustainable option.
Exactly. And there are even companies experimenting with biodegradable bristles made from plant-based materials. So the quest for a truly sustainable toothbrush is ongoing. It's all about finding that sweet spot between functionality, affordability, and environmental responsibility.
It's encouraging to hear that there are so many innovative solutions being developed. So while the classic plastic toothbrush might still be dominant, it seems like there are some strong contenders emerging.
Absolutely. The future of the toothbrush might be greener than we think.
Speaking of the future, what do you think the toothbrush of tomorrow will look like? Will we all be brushing with sonic AI-powered bamboo brushes?
That's a great question, and one that leads us into the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned for part 3, where we explore the exciting possibilities of the future of oral hygiene.
Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told This podcast. We've journeyed through the fascinating history of the toothbrush, from ancient chew sticks to the rise of nylon and the electric revolution.
It's been quite a ride, hasn't it?
It really has. Now let's turn our attention to the future. What might the toothbrush of tomorrow look like?
That's a tough one to predict.
Right.
But I think it's safe to say that the future holds even more exciting possibilities.
So where do we even begin to imagine the toothbrush of the future? What trends and technologies are shaping the future of oral hygiene?
Well, one thing that's almost certain is that sustainability will continue to play a major role. We've already seen the rise of bamboo brushes and replaceable heads.
Right.
And I think we can expect even more creative solutions to emerge, focusing on bio-based materials, circularity, and reducing waste.
So even greener toothbrushes, that's fantastic news for the planet.
Absolutely. But it's not just about materials. Technology will also be a key driver of innovation. We might see smart toothbrushes that connect to our phones.
Oh, wow.
Providing real-time feedback on our brushing technique, tracking plaque buildup, and even offering personalized tips for better oral hygiene.
Wow, a toothbrush, that's like a personal dental hygienist right in your bathroom.
Exactly. And it's not as far-fetched as it might sound. We already have toothbrushes with built-in sensors that monitor brushing time and pressure. It's only a matter of time before these features become even more sophisticated.
So are we headed towards a world where brushing our teeth becomes a high-tech, data-driven experience?
It's certainly a possibility. Imagine a toothbrush that analyzes your saliva, detects early signs of gum disease, or even customizes your brushing routine based on your individual needs.
That sounds incredible, but I can't help but wonder, will everyone embrace these advancements? Some people might prefer a simpler, more traditional approach to brushing.
You raise a valid point. There's always a balance to be struck between embracing innovation and preserving what works. Not everyone will want a toothbrush that's connected to the internet or tracks their every brushing stroke.
Speaking of what works, I have to bring up chew sticks again. They've been around for centuries, and they're a proven, sustainable solution. Do you think there's any chance we'll see a resurgence of this ancient practice?
It's not entirely out of the question. As we become more conscious of our environmental impact, it's possible that people will rediscover the benefits of natural solutions like chew sticks. Perhaps we'll see a modern twist on the traditional chew stick, sustainably sourced, ethically harvested, and maybe even with a few high-tech features thrown in for good measure.
A high-tech chew stick. Now that's an image I never thought I'd conjure up. But it goes to show that the future of the toothbrush is wide open, full of possibilities we can't even imagine yet.
Exactly. It will be fascinating to see how this everyday tool continues to evolve in the years to come.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the humble beginnings of the toothbrush to its potential high-tech future.
Yeah, we really have.
It's amazing to think that something so seemingly simple has such a rich and fascinating story.
It's a reminder that even the most mundane objects have stories to tell, and that innovation is a continuous process driven by human ingenuity and the desire for a better, healthier life.
Who knows what incredible advancements and surprising twists await us in the next chapter of toothbrush history.
Well, one thing's for sure, we at Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast will be here to explore those advancements and share those stories with you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of toothbrushes. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and learned something new along the way. And until next time, keep brushing.